couple days back, I was able to see Pet Sematary Bloodlines at its world premiere at Fantastic Fest. So let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comments section. Let me know, what do you think about Pet Sematary? What's your history with the franchise? Have you read the book? And what did you think about the new one? Now, as a point of reference, I did see this at the world premiere of the film at Fantastic Fest, which is a really cool way to get to see a film. They actually gave us a bag with a bunch of swag in it, so I got this cool Ludlow hat. I got a Pet Sematary blanket. They even gave us Pet Sematary cookies. So instant 11 out of 10 for this film. But honestly, it is a pretty cool way to see a film, to be at the world premiere, packed audience. Afterwards, the producers and director came in and did a Q&A. So just a nice environment to see it. But was it any good? I'll let you know my thoughts on that in just a second. Real quick, this video is brought to you by Audible. I'm a massive fan of Audible because I like to read with my ears, not my eyes, and Audible has a massive selection of audiobooks, and you can get an audiobook for free with a free trial of Audible at audibletrial.com/Sean Chandler. They've got Pet Sematary. If you want to check out Pet Sematary, if you want to check out The Stand, if you want to check out It, they have a massive collection of Stephen King books that you can check out. You can use your free credit with a free trial of Audible at audibletrial.com/Sean Chandler and start listening to some Stephen King for free. I really am a massive fan and have been since August of 2015, in fact. So link is down below in the description, and let's get back to Pet Sematary. So as for me and my experience with Pet Sematary, I'm fairly new to the franchise. I didn't grow up watching the original film or the second film. I watched them for the first time whenever the remake came out. So I have no nostalgia, no lingering history with the franchise. And I think there's a lot of really powerful, potent stuff in the source material about what would you do in your time of most desperation and despair. And a lot of people really let down by the remake, but perhaps because I don't have a history with it, I thought it did a good enough job of evoking those big emotions. Certainly more kind of generic and familiar than the original film, but also in its own ways had some twists and spins that had their own horrifying ramifications, and brought in some kind of world-class actors into it. You lose some charm with the professionalism that comes with that, but professionalism is good in its own right. So I thought it was fine. I didn't love it, but I was not as bothered by it as much as some other people. But when they said they were doing another film, I was like, where to even go? How do you do another film? As it turns out, you go back to the 1960s and tell Jud's story, kind of the anecdote that he shares. That's what this movie is elaborating on, and this is a prequel to the remake. So the producers even kind of made that clear. This is in continuity with the remake, but even if you haven't seen the remake, essentially it could function the similar fashion, just the timeline would be different and the wars and context would be a little bit different. But it's set decades and decades before the story, with Jud as a young person in our town, and when things went horrible when the cemetery was used before. But what did I think about the film? And I would say my feelings for this film are somewhat in line with my thoughts on the remake, which is to say, it was fine. It was professional enough, slick enough, but doesn't do much to stand out and pop. And like the idea of this town where there's been this pet cemetery and this long history there and this deep mythology, there's ideas to explore there, and this movie does that. And you learn what happened decades ago, but you also learn what happened hundreds of years ago, and where the town came from, the ties to the Native Americans in the area, and the origins of this cemetery. Like, you kind of dive into that mythology, and I enjoyed those aspects of the film. But I think where the movie struggled for me is that they didn't want to just rehash what we've done before, which is to say someone learns about the pet cemetery, something horrible happens, and then in their grief and despair, they start heading further and further down this path, and we follow them as they keep hoping beyond hope that this time it'll work and the results will be different. And this movie's trying to not follow that template. So it kind of changes when events happen and when who we're following, which character we're kind of following with everything. And because of that, you lose that central question of what would you do? I think you lose that central emotional gut punch of following a character that's in their despair with the way this story is structured. Like it's kind of in there, it's implied, you're seeing the implications and the ramifications and the consequences, but you're not fully following the journey the way you do in the classic Pet Sematary story. In which case there's creepy moments, there's jump scares, there's some ick factor, there's lore, but you don't have just this tragic journey that you're on that rips your heart out the way that you do with the original one. And I think that was the big thing for me that held this film back, because that's really the piece of this franchise, especially as a parent with kids, with pets. That's the piece that I latch on to of like, oh, that's really interesting. Oh, that's something worth exploring. And that's not the piece that's explored in this story. And by the time you get to the third act, it's kind of replaced with almost an action movie third act, with the town grabbing their guns and trying to make things right, and ticking clocks, like all these things that work in action movies. And so it's like horror action as you move into the end of the film. And I enjoy that kind of thing. So superficially, I was entertained. I wasn't bored by this movie. It wasn't like a stain on the franchise that mars the reputation. It wasn't anything like that. I mean, it works well enough. And in particular, as a streaming film, like if you want a little bit more in the world of Pet Sematary, a different type of story, it delivers that, and it delivers it in a way that you're like, okay, yeah, now we know what happened back in the town, decades back. We know a little bit more about Jud. But does it feel like this essential piece? Is it another classic? Does it evoke these big emotions? I would say no, it doesn't. So another thing to talk about on this one are the characters and the performances. So one of the standout characters in particular of the 1989 film was Jud, because he was just so quirky and odd. It had all these idiosyncrasies that made him stand out. Now, this is a remake. This is a prequel to the remake, which had John Lithgow, who's a great, fantastic actor, that maybe brought a more grounded performance, in a certain sense more realistic, but didn't necessarily have all the quirks to it. When we get to Jud in this movie, he's just a guy. Actually kind of a stud. I never thought that I'd think that Jud was such a stud, but man, he's quite the looker in this film and in really good shape, to the degree to which you're like, it's hard to see the connection between this guy and the person that we see in any of you don't imagine that older person as the person that we see here. You don't see enough connective tissue there. And the character as a whole, as seen in this film, is fine. He's not particularly compelling or interesting, but he's fine. And that's a lot of the people here are that. And we have several kind of older established actors in here. You have Pam Grier showing up as a sheriff, which is fun. David Duchovny is in it, playing a more serious role that doesn't lean into some of kind of his more humor and charm that he usually is able to use. And so it's kind of nice to see him in a role that's purely dramatic. So that was nice. And so there's some actors in here that are kind of nice, but just like no characters that really pop, that stand out. So you lack that emotional punch. You don't have the characters like you have in the main story. And then kind of just goes action movie in the end. It's fine. It doesn't do anything particularly memorable. Didn't do anything to step on my toes. And I think it's missing that emotion. That's the piece to me that makes Pet Sematary stand out and be horrifying, is following that journey of despair. And with the way this is structured, you don't really follow the journey of despair. You're seeing the ramifications in the community, the consequences in the community. And that's not really the same thing. And it's not nearly as personal, and it's not nearly as gut-wrenching. So it's kind of fine as a horror action film. If you're a big fan of the franchise, you'll check it out, and you'll probably have some fun with the lore, but overall be like, okay, that was fine. That was okay. but that's about it. Overall, I'll go with a C+ on the entertainment scale. I'll go with a 6 out of 10. And if you're a big Stephen King or Pet Sematary fan, just stream it, which it's not in theaters. You only can stream it. So there you have it. You'll just stream this one on Paramount. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts down below. You can get that free audiobook at audibletrial.com/Sean Chandler. The link is down below in the description. And keep talking movies and TV too much.